Question 7. Here are 3 scatter diagrams labelled A, B and C. Well, this is obviously an investigation into the causes and influences on how many hours that we spend watching TV each day, because all 3 diagrams are looking at number of hours spent watching TV each day. But each diagram is comparing it with a different thing. So the first diagram is comparing TV watched with the number of televisions that exist. Diagram B is comparing TV watched with the number of computers that exist. And diagram C is comparing TV watched with the number of mobile phones that exist. So let's have a read what we've got to do. Well, according to these sentences, we've got to show what each diagram is actually describing. Scatter diagram A shows that the more televisions a person has in their home, the more hours they spend watching television. We've got to write a similar sort of sentence for diagram B and C. So let's go back and have a look at the diagrams. And let's have a look at the way the crosses are pointing. Well, if the crosses are pointing in an upwards direction, we generally call this positive correlation. If the crosses are pointing in a downwards direction, we generally call this negative correlation. If the crosses are scattered all over the place, like they are here, we generally say that there is no correlation. Remember, correlation is a posh word for connection. So if there's no correlation, there's no connection between the two things. So there's no connection between the number of mobile phones that there are and the number of hours spent watching TV each day. We'll discuss this further in a little while. A good way of remembering the difference between positive and negative correlation is that some people think of this line as like a plane taking off. In other words, when you're going on holiday. When you're going on holiday, you're leaving the country and you feel quite positive because you are going on holiday and everybody looks forward to going on holiday. However, the negative correlation is when the plane is landing back in your country after your holiday. So because you're coming home from your holiday, you're feeling quite down because the holiday's over, therefore you're feeling quite negative. So plane is taking off means you're feeling positive, going on holiday. Plane is landing after the holiday means you're feeling quite negative. That's just one way that you may like to remember it. Now then, let's think about sentences that we can write. Well, in any question with positive correlation, it can fit this general sentence. We can say, the more the blank, the more the blank. In other words, to fill in the blanks, we just fill in what is written on the axes. And as a general rule, you normally would write in the first blank what is along the bottom of the axes. So the more televisions, the more hours spent watching TV. And if we check this against the second page, that basically is what it says there. The more televisions a person has in their home, the more hours they spend watching television. But the key thing is, it is the more the blank, the more the blank. And you just fill in your blank spaces with the labels of the axes. Anytime that that's positive correlation, that is the general sentence structure that you need. For negative correlation, if one thing goes up, so the more you get of the first thing, this generally has an effect on the second thing being less or coming down. So the more the blank, this time the less the blank. So if one thing goes up, the second thing comes down. Whereas positive correlation, as one thing goes up, the second thing also goes up. So all we need to do now is fill in the blanks. So the more the number of computers, so the more the computers in a house, the less the number of hours TV watched. And when you think about it, any sentence that you write with correlation should actually make sense. Because if there are more computers in the home, people are less likely to be watching TV because they can't really be on their computer and watch TV at the same time. They probably want to concentrate on their homework or something like that. In the final diagram, if there is no correlation and no connection, this is the easiest one of all. All we need to write is there is no correlation between blank and blank. And all you do to fill in the blanks is fill in what's on the axes. So there is no correlation between mobile phones and hours watching TV. Now all we need to do is now write these sentences into the second page. So we're saying on diagram B, diagram A has already been done for us, so diagram B, we're saying the more computers there are in a house, the less number of hours TV are being watched. So diagram B shows that the more computers in a person's house, comma, the less amount of hours TV are being watched. And that would be a perfectly good answer to this question. If you do want to give a little bit of extra detail just to make sure, you could just put in brackets that that is negative correlation. On diagram C, remember we were saying that there was no connection because the crosses are scattered, so there is no correlation or no connection between the number of mobile phones in a person's house and the number of hours spent watching TV. So diagram C shows that there is no connection or correlation between number of phones in our house and hours of TV watched. And there you have it, two perfectly good explanations of what the diagrams show. Just to recap, it is worth saying it one more time, that if the crosses go up, this is positive correlation, and that means both of the things go up. So both go up. In other words, as the number of TVs go up, the number of hours spent watching TV each day goes up. If it is negative correlation, that means one goes up, but the other comes down. So one thing going up, so as the number of computers goes up, the number of hours spent watching TV each day is coming down, which is why the crosses are coming down. And that basically is a complete explanation of correlation, which you can apply to any sort of situation. There will only ever be three answers. There will either be positive correlation, negative correlation, or no correlation. It's just up to you to use your common sense and think about what is the possible connection that could be there.